Chosen One, the evidence has finally spoken and justice is starting to lean in your direction. A revelation is surfacing so loudly that people who once felt untouchable are about to be stunned. The record is clear. The timeline matches. Accountability is no longer if it's when, and through it all, your name remains intact. Your path is being affirmed in the open, where nobody can twist it anymore. Now picture this. Someone spends months working on a puzzle. Most of the pieces are there, but a few key pieces are missing. They can see parts of the image, but not enough to understand what it truly is. So what do? They start guessing. They assume. They fill in the blanks with imagination, gossip, and whatever story feels easiest to believe. And once that story feels logical, they convince themselves it's the truth. They repeat it to others like it's confirmed. They make decisions based on it. They treat you based on it. Then one day that final piece drops right into the center. And suddenly the entire picture changes. What they called your chaos was actually proof of your strategy. What they labeled your failure was documentation of your resilience. What they mocked as weakness was you choosing restraint over revenge. One missing truth changes everything. And now they're staring at who you really are, realizing they damaged something valuable over a story that was never true. This is your moment, Chosen One. You're not in the phase where you have to convince anyone anymore. You've entered the phase where the truth is doing that work for you. The people who laughed are now second-guessing themselves. The ones who spread lies are watching their credibility burn in real time. The same people who slammed doors are suddenly remembering your name like they didn't forget it on purpose. But here's what's crushing them. Before we go deeper into this life-changing message, pause for a second. Like this video, subscribe to help us reach 1,000 voices of faith, and comment 99 to send a powerful signal of alignment to the universe. Because they're not only seeing that they judged you wrong, they're also seeing what could have been if they had chosen differently, the partnership that could have elevated everyone, the connection that could have been legendary, the opportunity that could have transformed everything. You were offering that the whole time, but they were too busy believing fiction to recognize the real thing standing right in front of them. And let's be clear, these weren't just random people. These were people in positions of power, people who pride themselves on never being fooled. People who claim they can read anyone. Gatekeepers, influencers, decision-makers, the ones whose approval you once wanted. The ones who could have opened doors, amplified your voice, and changed your entire trajectory. But they locked you out because someone fed them a story and they swallowed it without asking a single question. Now the tide is turning. Documents are surfacing that tell a completely different narrative. Witnesses are speaking up who were once blocked, silenced, or too afraid to talk. Timelines are being examined and they're exposing the lies. Context is being revealed and it's changing everything. And those powerful people are realizing something terrifying. They didn't just misjudge you, they got manipulated. Someone knew exactly which buttons to push. Someone studied their biases, exploited their blind spots, and turned them into weapons against you without them even realizing it was happening. Right now, somebody is replaying every interaction they ever had with you, every cold shoulder, every opportunity they denied, every moment they chose your enemy's word over yours. And it's hitting them hard because you were authentic the whole time. Your energy was real. Your intentions were pure. And they threw you away not because you were wrong, but because they let someone else do their thinking for them, and that's not just a mistake. That's a character reveal. Now they're seeing it. They're understanding the person who needs questioning isn't you, it's themselves. How did they miss this? How did they become a tool in someone else's agenda? How did they call themselves wise, yet move like someone easily led? Those questions don't have comfortable answers, and the ones who built these lies, they're being exposed too. Not quietly, not subtly, publicly. Their methods are coming to light. Their motivations are being examined. Patterns are being connected. And what used to feel like a hidden campaign is turning into a clear, undeniable map of manipulation. Because when truth rises, it doesn't just defend you. It unmasks everyone. And Chosen One, this is the spiritual part people don't understand. Sometimes God doesn't clear your name in private. Sometimes He waits until the stage is full so that the same people who doubted you are forced to witness your vindication with their own eyes. You didn't have to chase revenge. You didn't have to beg for validation. You didn't have to scream to be understood. You just had to stay aligned. And now alignment is speaking for you. So let them watch, let them realize, let them regret. Because the season of confusion is ending and the season of clarity is beginning, and the truth is not whispering anymore. It's arriving like thunder. If this message is resonating with you, subscribe right now and comment 99 again to claim alignment. And remember, when God is restoring you, He doesn't just rebuild what was broken, He exposes what broke it. What you're discovering right now is exactly what you already knew. These people weren't concerned. They weren't warning others. They were driven by pure jealousy. They saw something in you that they could not access in themselves. They recognized your potential, and instead of honoring it, they tried to destroy it. They told the world you were promiscuous while you were at home building your vision. They claimed you were stealing opportunities while you were earning everything through merit. They painted you as cruel while you were showing a kind of grace they never deserved. They described you as unstable when you were the most grounded person in any room. And they said it with such conviction that even discerning people believed them. But the curtain is being ripped down now. The puppet master is standing there exposed. And everyone who danced to that tune is realizing they got played. Listen closely to what's happening in the community right now, because this is how truth moves when it's finally allowed to breathe. People are having private conversations they would never dare to have in public. They're comparing notes. They're sharing screenshots they kept. They're pulling out receipts they saved because something felt off even back then. The evidence is mounting in ways your accusers never anticipated, because they truly believed they controlled the narrative completely. They assumed every witness was on their side. They thought every document supported their version. They believed they could bury anything that didn't. But evidence has a way of surviving. Text messages exist that contradict the timeline they presented. Emails are surfacing that prove you were somewhere else entirely. Bank records are emerging that show you couldn't have done what they claimed. Security footage is appearing that captures the truth they tried to hide. Witness statements are coming forward from people who stayed quiet out of fear but are finally speaking up. And piece by piece, the case they built against you is collapsing brick by brick in front of everyone. And the community is watching it happen in real time. They're seeing proof that can't be argued with, can't be explained away, can't be spun into something else. The facts are standing up and speaking louder than any lie ever could, and what's almost spiritual about this is how many people held onto evidence without fully understanding why. They screenshot conversations because something felt wrong. They saved documents because their intuition wouldn't let them delete them. They recorded interactions because they sensed deception even if they couldn't name it. They didn't do it for attention, they did it because something inside them whispered, "This isn't clean." Now that whisper has become a voice. And those people are coming forward not because they want to be seen, but because their conscience won't let them stay silent anymore. They're bringing proof that destroys the false narrative completely. And it's not coming from one place. It's rising from multiple directions at the same time. Professional colleagues presenting documentation that contradicts the lies, family members sharing observations that confirm your character, friends revealing conversations that prove your true intentions, even strangers who witnessed key moments stepping forward with what they saw. That convergence is what makes this undeniable. Your accusers can't scream bias when the evidence comes from people with no connection to each other. They can't claim conspiracy when the sources are independent. They can't dismiss it as coincidence when the pattern is so clear. And the community is having a collective realization that hurts because they didn't just believe a lie. They participated in systematic character assassination built on manufactured evidence. And that awareness is creating a seismic shift in how people view truth, accountability, and the responsibility to investigate before condemning. Your vindication isn't just clearing your name, it's changing the culture of your community. It's forcing people to confront how easily they were led, how quickly they judged, and how dangerous it is to follow a narrative without facts. If this message is hitting your spirit, hype this video so other chosen ones can find it, because someone out there is living your story right now and doesn't know the truth is about to speak for them too. And here's where it gets even deeper. Some of these people want back in. They're showing up with apologies. They're making promises. They're suddenly talking about partnership and collaboration like none of this ever happened. They're offering you the olive branch, extending the cup of reconciliation. Acting like this nightmare could somehow make you stronger together, Like betrayal is just a misunderstanding you're supposed to smile through. But chosen one pays attention. Not everyone who returns is coming to repair. Some are coming to reposition. Some are coming because the tide turned, and they don't want to drown in the consequences. So move with wisdom, move with spirit, move with discernment, because forgiveness can be holy but access is earned. And the same God who exposed them is the same God who will guide you in what to do next. What they are not ready for is your response. You're looking back at them now with an expression they have never seen on your face before, cold, unmoved, unbothered. Not because you're heartless, but because you remember everything. You remember the laughter they shared with your enemies. You remember the calls they ignored. You remember how easily they chose rumors over truth, convenience over courage, and silence over standing up for you. When the moment came to choose, they chose their side. And now that they can see which side is winning, they want to switch teams. That isn't loyalty. That's opportunism. And you're not interested. You didn't survive all of that just to welcome back people who contributed to it. You didn't carry your integrity through hell just to hand out second chances to those who failed the very first test. Where was this energy when the lies were spreading? Where was this support when you were isolated, doubted, and attacked? They were silent then, and now you are silent. And your silence is saying everything they need to hear. This isn't bitterness. This is clarity. This is you knowing your worth. You finally understand that not everyone deserves access to you just because they've caught up to the truth. Some doors close permanently. Some bridges burn completely. And you're at peace with that because you know something they're only just learning now. You never needed them. They needed you, and they threw that opportunity away. That loss is theirs to carry, not yours to repair. Watch how uncomfortable your calm makes them. They expected gratitude. They thought you'd be relieved that they finally believe you. They assumed you'd rush to restore what was broken, eager to move on, desperate to be accepted again. But you're not giving them that satisfaction. You're not performing relief. You're not expressing gratitude. You're not eager. You're simply standing in your power, steady, grounded, unmoved by their sudden change of heart, and that confuses them. That frustrates them because in their minds, they're doing you a favor by coming back. They think they're being the bigger person by overlooking what they now admit were lies. They believe they're extending grace by giving you another chance, but you see it clearly. You see them as people who failed you when it mattered most. People who chose convenience over integrity, people who revealed exactly who they are under pressure. And that kind of revelation is unforgettable. You don't unseen character once it's exposed. So while they stand there with open hands, you stand there with your arms crossed. While they talk about moving forward, you remember how they moved backward when you needed them. While they fixate on the future, you honor the past by refusing to repeat it. Now listen closely because this part matters. The ones who orchestrated all of this, the manipulators, the liars, the architects of deception they're being exposed to. These are people who climbed by stepping on others, who accumulated influence through dishonesty, who built their platforms on fabricated stories and borrowed credibility. And now the foundation beneath them is cracking. People are finally asking the questions that should have been asked long ago. How did they get that position without qualifications? How did they build that following without substance? How did they accumulate power without integrity? The answer is becoming undeniable. They lied. They stole credit. They destroyed competition. They manipulated narratives. And you were just another target in a long line of people they tried to bury. But they made one fatal miscalculation. They assumed you were like everyone else they'd crushed before. They thought you'd collapse. They expected you to react emotionally, lash out, and defend yourself in ways that would make you look guilty. They believed you'd eventually break and give them more ammunition. They were wrong on every level, because you had something their lies could never touch. Truth, real integrity, actual substance. Not the performance of it, the genuine article. They thought they could bury that under enough fiction. They believed volume could overpower reality. They underestimated one thing. Truth doesn't need noise to survive. It only needs time. And now time has run out. They believed that if they controlled the narrative long enough, it would become reality. They assumed no one would ever bother digging deeper. And for a while, that strategy worked. Doors closed, opportunities vanished, relationships ended, silence followed. But lies have an expiration date, truth doesn't. Eventually, the facade cracks. Eventually, someone asks the right question. Eventually, evidence surfaces that contradict the story, and when that happens, everything collapses. What's truly shaking this community to its core isn't just that the lies are being exposed, it's how calculated the deception was. People are realizing your accusers didn't invent stories on impulse. This was planned. Coordinated, rehearsed evidence is surfacing of group chats where they discussed how to frame you. Meeting notes are appearing where they strategized which lies would sound most believable. Voice recordings exist where they laughed about destroying your reputation. This wasn't a misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. This was premeditated character assassination, and the community is reeling from that realization. The shockwaves are spreading further than you can see. People are having crisis moments not just about you, but about themselves, about their ability to judge character, about the values they thought their community stood for, about the systems they believed protected truth and justice. Because if lies can spread this far, if deception can run this deep, if manipulation can be this effective, what else have they been wrong about? These are uncomfortable questions. Some people get defensive. Others lean into the discomfort, and those are the ones changing. As they examine everything, they're discovering something painful. The evidence in your favor was always there. They just weren't looking for it. They accepted the narrative they were handed. They trusted the wrong sources. And now they're angry at themselves for how easily they were manipulated. Meanwhile, the people who built their lives on deception are watching their world implode. Their credibility is evaporating. Their influence is collapsing. The same people who once believed every word are now questioning everything. And here's the beautiful part. Because everyone now knows they lied about you, every other claim they've ever made is under suspicion. If they lied here, what else was fabricated? Who else did they destroy unjustly? How many reputations did they damage for personal gain? The domino effect is relentless. One exposed lie invites scrutiny of all the others. One revealed truth opens the floodgates. And you're watching all of this unfold from a place of deep peace, because while they were building empires on sand, you were building character on rock. While they were collecting followers through deception, you were developing substance in silence. While they were obsessed with looking powerful, you were actually becoming powerful. That's the difference everyone is seeing now. You don't need to perform strength, you have it. You don't need to fake integrity, you live it. You don't need to manipulate perception, your reality speaks for itself. And as their house of cards collapses, you remain standing. Unbothered, unmoved, watching karma does exactly what karma does. The community is experiencing something unprecedented right now, a collective awakening, a mass realization that they participated in something unjust. And that awareness is producing different responses in different people. Some own their part immediately. They're reaching out with genuine apologies. They're taking full responsibility for believing lies without investigation. These are people who value growth over ego, uncomfortable with what they're learning about themselves, but willing to face it anyway. Then there are others who are getting defensive. They're making excuses. They're rewriting history in real time, claiming they never really believed the lies, that they were just neutral, that they didn't have all the information. They're trying to minimize their involvement, soften their role, and polish their image in retrospect. But you're watching all of it with crystal clarity. You know who showed up when it mattered. You remember who stayed silent. And you have receipts on who actively helped spread the poison. And here's the thing about evidence. It doesn't care about revised narratives. It doesn't bend for ego. It doesn't change because someone is embarrassed. It simply is. And it reveals exactly who did what. What's causing the biggest shock in your community isn't only that lies were told, it's the scope of it. People are realizing this wasn't one jealous person with a grudge. This was coordinated. Multiple people across different circles, a network. Your accusers recruited others. They fed different people different versions of the same lie. They created the illusion of independent confirmation, when in reality it was all coming from the same source, like a spider spinning threads in every direction, then pretending the web formed on its own, sophisticated, diabolical, effective for a season. But now the architecture of deception is being exposed. And people are seeing how they were used, how their genuine concern was weaponized, how their trust was exploited, how they were turned into pawns in someone else's agenda. And they're furious not only at the liars but at themselves for falling for it. And you already knew the attacks weren't random. You felt the pattern. You sensed the precision. And if you're paying attention, you can feel it now. The walls are closing in on them. The room is tightening. The truth is cornering them from every direction. So now we shift, because this moment isn't about proving you were right to everyone who doubted you. The validation is nice, but it's secondary. This moment is about you receiving what was always yours. Your peace, your truth, your integrity. That's what you protected. That's what they couldn't steal no matter how hard they tried. And now you're going to have to make decisions, because not everyone who comes back deserves rejection. Some people genuinely didn't have all the information. Some got manipulated by someone they trusted. Some made an honest mistake based on what appeared credible at the time. You'll need to separate the ones who were actively against you from the ones who were simply misled. You'll need to discern who is returning because they genuinely value you and who is returning because they can see you're winning and they want to stand on the right side of history. This is where your discernment becomes everything. You've got multiple cups being offered to you right now: opportunities, relationships, contracts, partnerships, romantic interests, business deals. Everything looks shiny. Everything sounds perfect. But not all of it is real. Not all of it is pure. Some of it is fool's gold disguised as treasure, designed to get close to what you're becoming. So look beyond the surface. Ask yourself, who stood with you when it was dark? Who reached out when everyone else went quiet? Who questioned the narrative when it was unpopular? Who defended your character when they had nothing to gain? Those are the people who deserve consideration. Those are the relationships worth strengthening, and the ones who only show up now when your vindication is public, when your name is being restored, when your favor is obvious. Those people have to prove themselves. They have to demonstrate that this isn't opportunism. They need to acknowledge specifically what they did wrong, and not in vague language, not in soft apologies. Not in sorry if you felt, but in clear accountability. Because a real apology doesn't just say, I'm sorry. A real apology says, I was wrong and here's exactly how, and chosen one that's the standard now. Not because you're arrogant, but because you've learned what access costs. You've already seen what happens when people get close to you without integrity. So now you don't just accept words, you watch patterns. You don't just listen, you measure consistency. You don't just open the door because someone knocks, you check who they were when your name was being dragged, because in this next season your life won't be protected by explanations. It will be protected by discernment. Show you through action that they've learned from it. Anything less than that is manipulation. Anything less than full accountability is disrespect, and you're not accepting either, because this is your kingdom now. You're not the one chasing approval anymore. You're the one granting access. You're not hoping for opportunities, you're creating them. You're not trying to prove your worth, you're deciding who is worthy of your time, your energy, and your presence. That is the shift that's happening right now, and some people cannot handle it. They're used to you being in the position of need. They remember the version of you that wanted their approval, their support, their recognition. But that version of you is gone. You evolved through the fire. You transformed through the persecution. You came out of isolation as someone completely different, stronger, wiser, more selective. Now when they approach you, they're approaching from a position of need. They need your forgiveness. They need your trust. They need your willingness to give them another chance. The tables have turned completely, and watching them navigate that reversal is revealing everything. Some are handling it with humility. They acknowledge the shift. They respect your boundaries. They don't demand, they ask. They don't pressure, they demonstrate. They're grateful for any consideration you give them, because they understand they are not entitled to it. But others are struggling with the new dynamic. They're trying to assert authority they no longer have. They're making demands they have no right to make. They're acting entitled to your time, your grace, your access, like your restoration is something they get to manage. And you're watching all of it with clear eyes, because your discernment has been sharpened by everything you survived. You can spot manipulation now. You can recognize performance. You can tell the difference between genuine remorse and strategic positioning. And here's the part that's almost divine. The measure of how badly they lied about you is the exact measure of how powerfully your restoration arrives. They didn't tell small lies. They went nuclear. They painted you as dangerous, corrupt, evil, worthless. They didn't bend the truth, they built a fictional villain and stapled your name to it. So when the truth emerges, when people finally see the real you standing next to the monster they were told about, the contrast is terrifyingly clear. The gap between the lie and the reality is so wide it creates a kind of gravitational pull. People can't help but be stunned. They can't help but respect you. They can't help but want to be close to you. Because anyone who can withstand that level of attack and still maintain integrity is operating on a different level. You went through hell and came out refined. You faced the worst and still chose your best. That is magnetic. That is rare. And people feel it. Some of the same ones who believe the lies are falling for you now, professionally, romantically, emotionally, spiritually. They've been watching how you carried yourself, and it's doing something to them. They're seeing a kind of strength they've never encountered. Grace under pressure that feels almost supernatural. They're witnessing you refusing to become what they tried to make you. And they can't explain why it's affecting them so deeply, but it is. This is your vindication manifesting. This is justice taking physical form. This is the universe correcting the imbalance. Everything they tried to take from you is coming back multiplied. Every door they closed is opening wider. Every opportunity they blocked is returning upgraded. And the part that burns them the most is this. They have to watch it happen. They have to witness your rise knowing they could have been part of it. That regret will haunt some of them for a long time. Because your reputation isn't just being restored, it's being resurrected at a higher level than before. The lies aren't just fading. They're being demolished publicly. The people who spread them are being exposed. The ones who believe them are recanting. And now you're being seen in a completely new light. People are asking different questions, real questions. How did you survive that? How did you keep your composure through hell? How did you keep moving forward when it felt like everyone was against you? And the answers to those questions are revealing who you really are. Someone with unshakable faith, genuine strength, real character, not the performance of it, the substance. And that's creating a level of respect that goes deeper than admiration. They're recognizing something rare, something powerful, something they want to learn from. Now let's talk about what you do with this power. First, recognize that you've been holding back. You've been walking carefully, speaking softly, trying not to make waves. That season is over. Truth is your bodyguard now. And it doesn't just protect, it confronts. So speak up. Tell your story without apology. Be bold, tenacious, daring. You were the truth the entire time. Stop tiptoeing like you have something to hide. The evidence is stacking in your favor. This is your moment to roar, to take up space, to remind the world why they should have never doubted you. Second, understand that your elevation is connected to your vindication. As lies crumble, opportunities open. People who ignored you are suddenly interested. Doors that slammed are swinging wide. Resources that were withheld are suddenly available. This isn't coincidence. This is correction. The universe is rebalancing what deception threw out of alignment. You were always meant to be in these rooms, to have these conversations, to access these levels. The lies only delayed it, but delays aren't denials. And what was stolen from you is returning with interest. Third, recognize the spiritual significance. You didn't just survive character assassination, you proved something rare. You proved that truth doesn't need an army, it just needs time. You stood alone in integrity while others picked sides. You trusted that the facts would eventually speak for themselves. That's faith most people never develop. You could have retaliated. You could have fought fire with fire. You could have descended to their level, but you didn't. You took the high road even when it was lonely, painful, and humiliating, and now you're watching that decision pay dividends you couldn't have orchestrated if you tried, and the evidence? It's not whispering anymore, it's stacking like a verdict. Digital footprints show you were somewhere completely different when they accused you of being elsewhere. Metadata on photos exposes that those images were taken in completely different contexts than what was claimed. Financial transactions prove the accusations of theft or misconduct was impossible. Professional records reveal the timeline makes their allegations logically inconsistent. Medical documentation contradicts claims about your physical presence or capabilities. Legal documents expose that contracts and agreements were completely different from what was publicly stated. Third-party verification from uninvolved witnesses confirms your version of events. Security systems captured footage that shuts every argument down beyond doubt. And each piece of evidence isn't only clearing your name, it's proving intentional deception. This wasn't misunderstanding. This wasn't miscommunication. This is documented proof of calculated lies. That's what's rocking your community to its core, because the evidence shows premeditation. It shows coordination. It shows malicious intent. And the people who are crushed right now aren't just sad that they lost you. They're crushed because they're seeing who you actually are fully, and they're realizing they failed a test they didn't even know they were taking. They thought the test was about you. It never was. It was about them. And they're realizing, too late, that they sided with the lie against a person who carried truth so cleanly that it survived every attack. So now they're watching you rise higher than before, while the people who tried to bury you are being buried by their own receipts. And you're not fighting. You're not begging. You're not proving. You're simply standing there in restored honor, with the evidence doing what evidence does, speaking. And in this season, Chosen One, your name doesn't need defending. Your name is becoming a testimony. They didn't even realize they were taking a test until the results came back. Now they understand something that hits like a wave to the chest. You weren't just another option. You were rare, special, the kind of presence that comes once in a lifetime, and they threw you away because they were too distracted by noise to recognize the signal. And that regret is going to live with them. They'll watch you thrive and replay every moment they ignored their instincts, every time they chose gossip over a direct question, every time they lacked the courage to stand with you when it wasn't popular. But while they sit in regret, you're stepping into destiny. You're not waiting for permission anymore. You're not seeking validation from people who couldn't recognize your value. You're moving forward with the calm confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are. You're operating from wholeness, not lack. And that energy is magnetic. It's pulling in the right people, the right opportunities, the right rooms, the right experiences. Everything meant for you is finally reaching you because the blockage of lies has been cleared. The path is open now. The vision is clear. And you're ready to walk into what was promised. So remember this as you move into what's next. The full picture is visible now. The lies are exposed. The truth is undeniable. And you are exactly who you said you were all along. Stand tall in that. Be bold in that. Let it fuel you as you step into spaces that tried to reject you. Let it remind you that you're not surviving anymore, you're thriving. You're winning. You're dominating. And everyone who bet against you is watching it happen in real time, forced to confront the fact that they chose the wrong side. And know this isn't arrogance. This is justice. This is balance being restored. This is vindication arriving after brutal wait. You earned every bit of it, not because you're perfect, but because you stayed true when truth cost everything. Now watch what happens next. Watch as everything you lost comes back multiplied. Watch as everyone who doubted you witnesses your restoration with their own eyes. Watch as the same community that once rejected you stands in absolute shock at who you've become, because evidence doesn't lie. And justice is leaning your way. The reckoning they never prepared for has arrived. You are not the victim of this story, Chosen One. You never were. You were always the one writing the ending. And this ending is better than anyone imagined, because while they were busy building lies, you were building legacy. While they focused on tearing you down, you were learning how to rise higher. While they celebrated your supposed defeat, you were preparing for your inevitable victory. The puzzle is complete now, every piece in place, and the picture it reveals is undeniable. You are powerful. You are unstoppable. You are exactly what they feared you would become. This is your moment. This is your season. This is your time. The throne isn't being handed to you, you're reclaiming what was always yours. And everyone who tried to stand between a chosen one and their destiny is about to learn what that costs. Because the community that once turned against you is now being forced to witness your transformation. They're watching the evidence stack in your favor. They're seeing justice manifest in ways they can't deny. They're feeling shock deep in their bones because you didn't just survive their attacks, you transcended them. You didn't just prove them wrong, you showed them what real power looks like. You didn't just reclaim your position, you rose to heights they can't even reach, and that is the ultimate vindication. Not just being cleared, being crowned. Welcome to your era of dominance.